Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be going over my top 3 cards to kind of look out for when it comes to underrated cards, and then also my top 3-ish cards for overrated cards in the Bright Light set. Kind of give you my general thoughts on some of the key cards to look out for in general, and just get your thoughts on as a community as we go into this pre-release weekend and eventually the release of the set. So, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Feel free to check out my other videos. Been doing a ton of content for the Bright Light set. And if you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much as always. Y'all are amazing. Feel free to check out the Patreon, Discord down below for access to a great community. Over 400 members talking every single day. Super fun. And we'll get right into it. Yeah. So, clickbait title. Most overrated and underrated cards of Bright Lights, right? How could he possibly know which ones are already good and bad? This is the biggest and most diverse set. He just said it, right? Right. I'm not going to sit here for the next 10 to 15 minutes and tell you, what cards are bad that people think are good and what cards are good that people think are bad. I'm going to give you a couple cards that I think people may not pay attention to at first, but I think are going to end up being staples, whether they are pivot cards that are like really powerful or just good, solid cards that I think some people might look over in their initial deck building, just in my opinion, and kind of give you my reasons as to why. When it comes to the overrated cards, I am not by any means calling these cards bad. I am saying I think they are cards that people I've seen have already a lot of positive reception for, but I'm really curious to see how they end up when it comes to actual use case, right? And kind of just get my general thoughts on that. I want your feedback as a community, whether you agree or disagree with me, that's totally fine, but we're going to get right into it, right? So I have 3 cards here that I consider underrated. The first one is Firewall. At red, this is a 0-for-4 block, right? Now, I incorrectly called this a defense reaction in my last video just out of force of habit. I see 0-for-4, that's a block, and I think reaction. So, obviously, you can't play this from Arsenal. The only block card that you can play from Arsenal, to my knowledge, is the Ninja one that has Ambush, which allows you to play it from Arsenal. However, what I like about this card and why I think people might overlook it is because at first glance, they're just vanilla 0-for-4, 0-for-3, 0-for-2 blocks, right? They can't be played from Arsenal, so there are some limitations. What I like about this, though, is in a lot of Mechanologist decks, you'll see them run like Sync Blows and Fate for Scenes, whether in sideboard or main board, depending on what type of deck it is. And that can be a little bit dicey because if you're boosting away cards, you have non-Mechanologist cards in your deck, there's a chance you could have to pop your boots because you lose your action point. What I like about Firewall at red is it allows you to have that same block value that you would with a defense reaction, even though it has to be from hand, but you don't have to worry about boosting it away. If you see it on top of your deck, you can boost it away when you're Dash IO. If you boost it away in general when you're on your aggro game plan with Max, it doesn't matter. Tech Leviathan can use it as a good piece of block value, or if he boosts it away when he's trying to get his evos, he doesn't have to worry about losing his action point. I think this is going to be a very good substitution, maybe for a set of defense reactions, maybe depending on the meta, to help grab more consistency with the Mechanologist decks. So I'm really interested to see this card. Really cool to me, and yeah, that's my first one. My second one is Infused Titanium. I love this card. This card specifically. So the galvanized cards are going to be a little bit tricky. Having to destroy an item to get +2 block value is a little bit interesting, and it's very situational. However, this card, I think, fits the best of both worlds, right? You have certain cards like Infused Alloy, that's a 0-for-4 at red, that says if you destroy an item, it gets +2 block, so it's a 0-for-4 that's a 4 block potentially. And so even that's decent, but it's kind of in the middle of the road on both sides, right? If you don't have access to an item. The reason I like Infused Titanium is because this is a Wounded Bull, or a Findale's Fine Spirit, as far as like power level, on rate perspective, but it's also a Brothers in Arms potentially, right? This is able to basically attack for 3 for 7, which is good rate, but also a block for 4. So it can be above rate or on rate at both sides of the coin, which gives it more flexibility, right? Even if you don't make use of that Galvanize, it's still a 3 for 7, which is a good attack, right? So I'm super excited to see what people do with this card if they have value-based lists. I think I have this in my value Tech Leviathan list I'm going to put out. I'm not 100% sure if I end up putting it in the final cut. But I think this is one of the few galvanized cards that has the most flexibility in play. And I think it's going to be overlooked at first, but I think there's going to be some type of build that has value plays that could be, using this at red very, very well. So that's my second card. And then my third card, this card has been looked at positively, right? It's not necessarily an underrated card, but I think this card's going to shine even harder the more that the set's used. Obviously, this card's very good in max. If you have the base arms equipped, transform it in X hyperdrivers you control into this, then equip this. If you do, the next time you would be dealt damage this turn, prevent X of that damage. Whenever you boost an attack action card, you may destroy a card under this. If you do, the attack gets +2. So there's a couple reasons why I like this. One, it's instant speed. If you notice, it says Mechanologist instant equipment, right? It can transform into your base equipment on your opponent's turn. So if you have 2 hyperdrivers out on the field as max and you arsenal this, and then your opponent draws up, they start attacking, you can play as at instant speed and be able to transform those 2 hyperdrivers and this into your base equipment with your base equipment underneath. And then you are able to prevent 4 damage because 2 hyperdrivers doubled is 4. And then you're also going to get +6 damage because you have 3 charges underneath it with the base equipment and with hyperdriver. So this essentially, in a perfect situation, is 10 value on an equipment, which is really, really good. And it's instant speed, so you can basically use it as pseudo ward, right? And prevention, which is super, super nice. I'm really excited to see where this card goes. It has obvious use case to max, but I think it's going to have use case even like an aggro Teklevossen list or a even in a Dash.io list that might use some hyperdrivers to gain resources, right? There's so many use cases for this card, and I just think it's a super, super solid card because at its maximum potential, it's possibly 10 to 12 value, right? Depending on how many hyperdrivers you have on the field. Even at worst, if you only have 1 hyperdriver out on the field, this will prevent 2 damage and then give you +4 offense, right? So at worst, it's a 6 value arm piece. Super, super good. So that's my top 3 for the lookout section, like the underrated section. And then we have the look away section or the overrated section. Now, again, these aren't meant to be like these cards are bad. I'm really excited to see where people take these cards because right now they seem a little to me, but I could be completely wrong. The first one is War Machine. Now, this card goes for any of the cards that are like this, that are 6 for 6s that get better as the more Evos you have. Obviously, these are late game pieces, whether you use them or Teklevossen or if you find another way to use them, but Teklevossen is probably the best way to use them. This one in particular is the most interesting to me because there's one card that I had to look at here on the fly that basically says, you know, if you hit... if I look at it really, really fast, Terminator Tank. Terminator Tank says if you have 1 or more Evos equipped, when this hits a hero, they discard a card. That one's like non-conditional, right? As long as you have an Evo equipped, yes, it costs 6 to play, but it's a 6 for 6 that on hit discards a card, which basically forces your opponent to block it, right? Unless they just want to take 6 and then discard a card, which still feels really bad. This card's a little bit more conditional, right? It says if you have 1 or more Evo equipped, when it hits your hero, destroy all cards in your arsenal. That can be very situational. Your opponent could not have an arsenal when you play this. They could not care about their arsenal, you know, and then it's just vanilla damage. They could even have Crown of Providence and block it, right? There's a lot of things that basically make that first section of text kind of irrelevant. At 2 or more Evos, this costs 3 less to play. So you have to get 2 Evos out. So Vincent has a 3 for 6 that says on hit, or if you've dealt damage this turn, destroy all cards in arsenal. Or anyone who has been dealt damage this turn, destroy the cards in the arsenal at the end of the turn. That one, you don't even have any conditions. It's just deal damage. This one, you have to have 2 whole Evos in play that aren't base, or that aren't like the equipment you start out with, right? In order to make this even an on-rate card in compared to like a card like Vincent has, which is 3 for 6. If you have 3 or more, gains overpower, which 3 for 6 overpower is okay, but it's not that great. If you have a defense reaction, it completely in the arsenal, it completely nullifies the entire thing for overpower. You basically have to get this to 4 Evos for it to matter, to make it a 3 for 9 overpower on hit, destroy all cards in arsenal. So at Majestic, this seems a little bit even a card like Terminator Tank, which is the same thing except discards a card. I'm excited to see what people do with these. Like in my Teklevossen list, I have 3 Terminator Tanks for a late game, but I'm excited to see if people can make these cards more consistent because they seem very below rate until very late game, and it's going to be interesting to see if people can keep them in their decks long enough in order to make them matter. But I hope I'm proven wrong. Next one, we have 2 items. We have Polarity Reversal Script and Penetration Script. Yeah, Polarity Reversal Script and Penetration Script. I put these together because these both have really powerful effects, right? Reversal Script gives all action cards -1 to your Mechanologist attack action cards, and Penetration Script gives all your Mechanologist attack action cards +1. These are very powerful effects, right? The best time to play these, in my mind, with Dash.io would be off the top of your deck at the beginning of your turn. You pay 2 resources from a blue because you have to pay 1 for the extra cost from Dash.io's ability, and then pay 1 for the card itself. So you have to pay 2 to get these out, and they basically, if you can do it at the beginning of your turn at instant speed, that means they'll last 2 whole turns because they'll come in with a steam counter, you'll play out the rest of your turn, and then you'll take a steam counter off next time, and then you'll be able to play out another turn. So for 2 turns, you can get +1 to your attacks or -1 to action cards defending your attacks, right? If you're Mechanologist. So they're very powerful. I just think that they're going to be you're only going to want to see these from the top of your deck. Having these in hand is just horrible. Unless you have Expedite or Medex to get them on the field faster or something like, or maybe one of the Evo headpieces that allows you to cycle it in, whatever it may be. I think that one banishes. So yeah, if you have this in hand, it feels really bad. There are other items that allow you to play items from hand, right? So there's ways to supplement that, but then you start getting to a lot of items in your deck and a lot of non-blocks. So as powerful as they are, and I understand why they made them 1 cost, you definitely only want to see these on the top of your deck, and you want to play them at the beginning of your turn. Because if you see these in your hand, you only get them for 1 turn, and essentially then you're paying 1 resource for +1 to your attacks for the turn, which, is worse rate than Uprising, which is never played in Fi, right? So these are very situational, I think, with the timing of when they're played, but if you can get them out right, there is ways to make these better with Plasma Mainline to give them another counter. Being able to there's other stuff that gives stuff with Crank. Gives stuff gives more counters to things with Crank. So there are ways to make them better, but it's going to be really interesting to see kind of where they go. And then another one that's really interesting is the one that allows you to banish X Mechanologist attacks and then banish a certain amount of, System Reset, which says banish X Mechanologist items you control with cost 0 or 1, then return them to the arena under their owner's control. You could use that to reset them. So there are ways to keep them alive. I'm just really interested to see how people take it and make them always used to their fullest extent, or try to make them always used to their fullest extent. Otherwise, they could seem a little bit, not worth the resource or the deck cost that they need in order to take up slots. The last one I'm really interested in, this is a Majestic. So target hero chooses X equipment they control. Then you choose 1 from among them. That hero must defend your attacks this turn with that equipment if able. But it's XXX. So in order to basically force your opponent to give you all of their equipment and then you pick from it, you would have to pitch, 12? Right? Because you have to pitch XXX 3 times the amount that you're asking. So for 4 blues, so you have to play this from Arsenal, you then can get the pick of the litter with their equipment and possibly knock out their most important piece of equipment, right? But in order to for them to just pick 1 piece of equipment, you got to pay 3. That's the way I read this, right? If they want to pick 2 pieces of equipment, you got to pay 6. That's a lot. And for most decks that honestly can, as a ninja, right? If I have Mass Momentum, Tunic, Breaking Skills, and Breeze Rider Boots, and I've already used my block on Breeze Rider Boots and Breaking Skills, and you pay 6 into this, I'll just show you Breaking Skills and Breeze Rider Boots, and you can pick which one you want, and I'll block with it, right? So definitely some situational plays for this, but for a blue Majestic block 3, I think this is obviously, a late game play, because once they've used up other pieces of key equipment, they're trying to keep just a Tunic around or just Mask Momentum around. This could be really, really good. However, at Majestic, it seems just very hard to make the most use of it. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope people prove me wrong with this. It just seems very interesting when it comes to trying to actually cripple your opponent with the play on this. So that's my thoughts on that one. But yeah, that's all the ones. I had System Reset in here too, but I ended up taking it out because that one's kind of, I just think, pretty good. But let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to get your general takes on some of these cards. Are there any cards that you think people aren't looking at enough, or do you think might be hidden gems in the set? Or are there ones that you think a lot of people are going to try to play, but they may not be as good? I'd love to hear your thoughts. It's just more fun conversation. It's not meant to be gospel or crazy, really just to, generate some fun discussion. But yeah, if you enjoy this type of content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. If not me, it's totally fine. Go to our Fleshbug Creator, leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff so we can get more people seeing this game. And I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much. Have a nice day.